Alrighty. So when it comes to creating content, you have multiple different formats, multiple different content types, and niches. And so I wanted to kind of touch on this topic because as a polymathic content creator, meaning I like to do many different things and I can do them well, I find myself kind of doing a little bit too much at times, which is weird for me to say because I don't like saying that I do too much. But there are points where I know I'm spreading myself too thin, so I have to manage that time very well and also counterbalance that by maybe focusing here and there. And so not getting too much into the polymathy side of things, I talk about the macro and micro focus on my polymathy newsletter, which is how you would manage multiple different niches and topics and expertise. However, this video is actually about more so the idea of, are you doing many different things or are you doing many different content types? And so when I tell you to do many different content types and then you see me do many different niches, there could be this disconnect. And I wanted to make sure I explain what I'm doing in order to kind of explain where you could be on this spectrum of things you need to do. Because a lot of people have seen these videos on this channel where I talk about the triangles. You have live, written, not live, sorry, live, short, and long types of content, and then written, audio, and video. So there's these triangles of basically content creators. What kind of creator are you? Are you short form video, long form video? Are you live streaming? Are you doing audio, etc., etc.? There are different types of content creators. And then there's also within that, your content ecosystem, which means you might have multiple different niches. So for example, my content that I do is I have my main PolyInnovator content, which is around being a polymathic and this multidisciplinary generalist. And I talk about knowledge management for those types of people, meaning using like Notion and Obsidian to organize your life. That is what my main personal brand is about. That is what the YouTube channel is about. That's what most of my blogs and newsletters are about on the website that I have. And then in the middle, I have my, gaming stuff, my swimming stuff. I have a newsletter for either one. I have a YouTube channel for the gaming, and that has just grown over time. And then probably the biggest, besides my main one, is the PolyTools. And with the PolyTools, it started out as a newsletter, then a YouTube channel, then I started interviewing creators. I started doing technology videos. So even within PolyTools, I'm pretty wide-ranging. In the gaming, I'm pretty wide-ranging. I actually have a lot of games I want to do. That's why I call it the generalist gamer, because I want to be able to do wide range of games without limiting myself. Granted, most of them are more RPG focused, so there is kind of a genre focus, but within that genre, I'm kind of free to do what I want to do. I did focus my marketing a bit going forward, and I haven't done much with it, but I have focused more on Pokemon. And so the point was, while I was wide ranging, I kind of narrowed down, and eventually I'm going to be wide ranging again. And that's what I call the hourglass analogy. So within your content, within your niches, you can go wide, but then you find something you like and you go into it for a while. Then you go wide, and it's a cycle. So I think there's a lot of overlap with people who are generalists and multidisciplinary and creators, because you have to wear many hats to be a creator. But then on top of that, people who are multidisciplinary have a lot to share, so they often become content creators. So there's this overlap that I'm seeing, and that's part of why I made this video. So there are 3 different content formats. You have the written, audio, and video. Written being like a blog or newsletter, video being like YouTube or maybe courses or whatever you might find yourself doing, even like a TikTok. And then you have audio, which while is growing pretty rapidly right now, a lot of people don't necessarily see it as often because it is just listening only. A lot of video podcasts have been blowing up, and there is a difference between video podcasts and podcasts, but the differences are pretty minimal for a lot of people. In the podcaster world, I might get scorned for saying that, but in the rest of the content world, it's not that much different, because the things you're doing for a video podcast, you would already be doing for an audio podcast. You just have the added layer of video. Now, a lot of audio podcasts only might actually be a little bit better in some cases because you're focusing purely on the audio. Again, it comes back to that focus and stuff like that. If you look at gaming content creators, a lot of them actually start off with one game and then go wide because they're tired of that one game. But then after going wide, they find another game they really like and they narrow down again. So that's a prime example of that hourglass analogy that I was referring to earlier. And now, just a little side note, as a content creator, this is meta, I've been having a lot of issues with my Herc Orion mini PC, my main one, not the new one that I'm reviewing now, but my main one has had a lot of audio sounds issues, and so the fan is going really loud. I hope you guys can't hear it, but I'm just kind of making that note in this video because I want to say it. If you're seeing any of my videos and you start hearing that, that's why. I can't really get that noise out. That's why the microphone's facing this way, so hopefully it gets blocked out on that side. Just a little meta commentary. Now, when it comes to what kind of content do you want to make, and let's say you are like me and you like doing many different things, how do you get started on that? So this is kind of into this multidisciplinary branding, personal branding kind of niche that I've sort of put myself into in some cases, where it's like, okay, I like swimming. I've taught it for over a decade. I like gaming. I've done it all my life. I love content creation, so I want to talk about that more too. These are all areas of expertise for me that I felt like I should do something with online. Now, with the swimming stuff, I don't foresee myself making any videos or courses anytime soon because of the difficulty curve of doing something like that, which is half the time underwater. While I have an action camera, so it's technically possible, it is a lot of work, takes a lot of effort. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it anytime soon. So what I did was I started writing. I did in my newsletter, and that's leading up to the release of my written book. And so I figured that with that area, I limited that niche to just the written format. Whereas with gaming, a lot of that is video based, but I like talking, I like writing. And so sometimes my videos are just me talking like this. Sometimes my gaming content would be just blogging and written content, me exploring the depths of Mass Effect, or talking about my love for Diablo 2, or explaining that these are the cool Pokemon ROM hacks that I found. These are all topics that, while I could make videos, and I probably have and or will make videos on those topics, I find that the format of writing them is easier for me to get out. Even right now, I'm making this video off the cuff. You can probably tell, making mistakes here and there. I'm stuttering here and there. Well, am I going to edit this? Probably not, because I want this to be genuine. I want this to be out there because I want the free flow of thoughts. I think that's what's going to be most valuable to you. If I were to try to script this or try to make too many bullet points for this particular video, I think that would limit the amount of exploration that we need to do with this topic. So unlike some other videos where it might be a review or talking about a certain strategy, where I need to be a little bit more edited and cut down and not ramble as much, this is something new. Not enough people talk about multidisciplinary personal branding. That is something that is not necessarily a niche that people talk about very much. I tried doing it on the PolyInnovator channel, but it would be kind of hit or miss or here and there. And I've done it on this channel, hit and miss here and there. So this idea of doing written audio or video is a decision you have to make. You have to decide, do you like talking on camera? Do you like talking into the microphone, not worrying about the camera? Do you like writing and typing and getting the ideas out through the written word? Find that out. This is kind of an intro video too for you, if you will, where it's like, if you are just starting out or if you've done it for a while, it doesn't really matter, because now you have to change your perspective, because now you're focusing on multiple niches. And when it comes to your content ecosystem as a whole, you theoretically could have 3 niches, and then all 3 niches do all 3 content types. So you're making a podcast about swimming, making a newsletter, and a YouTube channel around swimming. You're doing that same thing for gaming. You're doing the same thing for content creation. That, if, for example, those are the niches that I have. And so I could be doing all 3 for all 3. And I have actually 1 or 2 more niches beyond that. And I actually started a new one recently around travel and one bag travel and everyday carry and all that jazz, like just the kind of traveling world, because I love that niche. And while I'm not going to be focusing on that, I'm not going to be even trying to grow that newsletter. I made it because I just needed to get that content out there. It was building up in me and I kept thinking about it, and that distracted me from other content. So while that is a newsletter I'm doing and will be doing over the course of a long period of time, I'm not worried about growing that, versus something like my gaming or PolyTools newsletters. I actually do care about those and I do want them to grow. The swimming newsletter is pretty much done for now, because I was leading up to the release of the book. Haven't released a book yet, but it's halfway written. And I wanted to kind of have something that people could take for free and learn, and then lead up into the book. So if they like the newsletter, they'll like the book. And some people just want to skip to the book so they can just buy it. So I have in those niches written, and then with the gaming, written and video. With the creator stuff, I have written, video, and audio, and the same thing for my main niche. I have written audio and video. So this idea of how do you want to disseminate your ideas and your niche and your expertise, and then changing that too, depending on the niche format that you think is best for that topic. Because with travel stuff, sure, I can make videos, but I really don't need videos of me walking through the airport right now. Maybe down the line, I might make a YouTube channel or add YouTube videos or whatever to my written content. But for the moment, writing and getting that free flow of thought is a lot more valuable. And so I'm going to end the video here because this doesn't need to be too long. But that is the point I wanted to make. It's like, okay, even if you have just one niche, it's kind of complicated enough. You got to decide written, audio, video, short, long, and live. And then you have to figure out, okay, do I keep doing this for extra long time, or do I kind of do this and this? And you start mixing them. And then the added layer of complexity of doing multiple niches on top of that, because one niche can already be 3 content types and 3 formats. And then if you have multiple niches, it starts to compound a lot more. So instead of 3 or 6, it's now 6 or 12 when it comes to that level of complexity. And then you add another niche, it gets to 16 and 20 and starts to get even more and more complicated. And so I have 5 newsletters. I have 3 or 4 YouTube channels. I have 2 different podcasts. And while that's kind of low considering the amount of niches I have, that's because I wanted to make things more time effective and not waste my time making a podcast for one of my niches that doesn't need a podcast. So that's it. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns down below. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on this multidisciplinary personal branding.